All right, I'm going to give you a quick, very quick tip on some of the Zionist tactics, or one in particular Zionist tactic that was used in my time as an activist. And why I do this is because when we were activists, no one told us what to be careful about, or what to, or how to navigate the their way when defending Muslims. And as a result of that, we made loads of mistakes, and we weren't as effective as we could be. And the reason why no one told us, because there was no precedent within Muslim leadership, Muslim speakers, scholars, religious institutions of any form of defending Muslims, because they never stood up for Muslims. These people that we all respect, so-called scholars, or imams or whatever. How could they teach someone like me how to defend, and stand up for Muslims? That they were less competent than I was. At least I had experience. I was doing something, so I learned a lot along the way. These chimps that everyone respected so much just because they had Islamic knowledge really were the most incompetent people of all. They had no clue of how to defend the Muslims. So they could never advise someone out there who was going to do something similar. Now, let me give you just you guys who are defending Muslims now, one of the things that they would do, and it's very powerful, right? What they would do, and remember, mostly how Zionists work is they work with psychologically. They don't normally. I mean, although they have beaten me up, right, and even got me thrown in a police cell once, right, which you can read about on my blog. Normally, if they can get away with it, they want to stay behind the scenes, kind of invisible, right, and harm you without leaving fingerprints, right, and so they work psychologically. Everything's about upsetting you or throwing you off your way psychologically. Because if you're psychologically flawed, then what happens is clearly you can't operate. You can't operate as effectively against them. And 95% of their game is psychological. So the most advanced form of psychological kind of warfare, you might call this, is disrupting your life so you can't function because your mind is focused on just trying to live, right? And this is something right at the end of my time as activism that they did, which is called, I think Americans called it gaslighting, the East German intelligence services called it Zeitstung, and there's a numerous other, gang stalking. So there's kind of various terms for this floating around, but never really as far as I know, there's no real deep research conducted into it. But you can Google it, you'll find out about it as well. But let me give you kind of low-level standard operating tactic that they operate against, that they use as almost as standard for politicians, for media personalities, and for activists like myself. And no doubt you can see people like Majid Nawaz were that they used it on people like Majid Nawaz. In my opinion, who knows, but I'm sure they would have. But he bought into it rather than the other way, where people like me were kind of or they tried to throw us, they tried to defeat us through this tactic. Very quickly then, the tactic is this: every human being wants to, it's natural for a human being to want to be appreciated, to want to increase their profile, be appreciated, lauded by the public, have people adore or agree with your opinion, at the very least, and get some benefit out of that, whether that's monetary, whether that's publicity, whether that's power, whatever. There's some benefit that comes from the action that you do. That's why we work, right? We work for monetary benefit, and then you get promoted in your workplace and you get more monetary benefit and you get appreciation, and it's your intrinsically human nature to feel good about that. Well, I got promoted, I'm a manager now, I feel more important, my hard work paid off. It's a very human thing. No different from how they realized it was for activists. So for activists, it worked like this, right? They would call me up in this particular example. They'd call me up and they would say, we really want you to come and do a talk, right? We want you to do this talk. It's this a student or a body or governmental body or whatever, and your expertise is really, insightful. We really like what you're saying, and please come and attend this talk. So of course, in your mind, you're thinking, wow, this is great. Yeah. I want to deliver my message. I want it. And now I'm delivering it to mainstream audiences, to bigger audience, to student bodies, to governmental bodies. My importance is increasing. My message is getting out to a wider audience. So you feel more important, and they make sure that you feel important. Yeah. So the particular, I'm just giving you one example. It happened to me a number of times, right? The particular guy who called me up, Jewish Zionist, says to me, I could tell by his name that, or it's my guess. I mean, I'm not MI5. I can't check for sure, but my guess is that he was a Jewish Zionist. His name sounded a bit Jewish. So head said he was head of a student newspaper or student publication. He said, I want to meet you and I want you to do a talk and we want to write about it in a publication, etc., etc., etc. And so I was like, all right, okay, cool, yeah. And he really laid it on, like, it's really good to have you, really great that, we really love what you're doing, etc. So laid it on really thick, yeah. So if my ego was, if I wasn't such a, cautious character and more susceptible to egotistical comments than I am, it would really pump me up and gone, yeah, this is great, yeah. I am so important. And right at the end, what they do, and this is a standard tactic, right at the end, so they pump you up, make you think you're going to go somewhere, and they're writing about you in glowing terms, etc. They go, oh, hold on, I've just found out that people call you anti-Semitic. Oh, it's cancelled. Your gig's cancelled. We don't want you anymore. We wanted you in this really prestigious thing. Now we don't want you. Yeah. For example, Chatham House invited me. Yeah. Anyone knows Chatham House, one of the most prestigious think tanks in the world, right? So they invited me, yeah. This student body invite, and right at the end, right when you're supposed to attend, oh no, the email or call, no, sorry, we don't want you, yeah. And either they make it explicit, so this particular this student head of a student magazine said, oh no, we heard you're anti-Semitic, or they just, there's no reason, they just and it leaves you going, oh, why? What did I do that made them pull out? If only I hadn't said that thing, if only I wasn't so controversial, if I hadn't spoken the truth as forcefully as I had, if I had mellowed it out, can you see how it works? And so psychologically, by pulling out from that high, you crash and you think, oh, I could have been up there, but now I'm down here. And the reason why I'm down here is because I said something that they didn't like. If only I didn't say it. So psychologically, you start to go, well, maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe you should pipe down. Maybe I shouldn't say things that the system doesn't like me to say, because if I hadn't said it, I would have been raised in this pedestal. I would have been more important, more adored, more famous, more powerful, more rich, whatever they're offering, right, than I currently am. Now, luckily for me, I had read a book called They Dare to Speak Out. It is probably the only book that does what I'm doing now, right, which is actually document Jewish Zionist tactics on congressmen and on media people and on famous film stars, little ways of how they behave. And so I'd seen that they have, with congressmen, what they do is they invite us to these massive talks and these gala dinners, and just before you deliver, they go, oh, we don't want you because you're against Israel. And it would really affect these powerful people, really, whether they're more egotistical or they rate themselves more, or they need it more than I did. So it would totally demoralize them, and they would learn a lesson never to cross Israel. Cynthia McKinney, a congresswoman, said the same thing. And she said what they would do, and she called it, very interesting, listen to this, she called it water torture. They would call her up. She needs funding. She's a congresswoman. They would say, we want to fund you, and come on. And then she would actually sit with them to plan, time and time again, sit with them. And right at the end, after planning with her for weeks or months or whatever, right, of how they're going to use this funding to make her win, they would say, oh, we found out you didn't sign a pledge for Israel, and pull out. So you finally think you've got what you want. and then they pull the rug from under your carpet and you realize you got nothing. Now, can you see how that works? You see how it destroys you? Understand that, activists. Their whole game plan is to psychologically make you feel you're defeated, and that's what they do. They offer you something they were never going to give you, not in a million years, and then pretend to pull it away from you. Of course, yes, you would have got it if you were a sellout or you were pro-Israel or something. That's different, right? But as a Muslim or a pro-Palestinian, right, you were never going to get that, and not in a million years. And so they give you these little crumbs, and then even those crumbs, they say, no, we're not going to give them now. And you left feeling defeated. Understand that. That's the game. That's the tactic. One of the most powerful tactics used against politician and media people. Congress people have spoken about it. Media people have spoken about it. Who's the guy that is part of Pink Floyd? Can't remember his name. Really pro-Palestinian guy, yeah? Just at the last point. He said the same thing. He said, I go to I'm not on the media a lot, and the reason is obvious. Why? You're a pop star. You want to be on the media. But no, pulling that away and making you realise you're not getting on because of what you say. That's the game. That's a psychological attack. That's the warfare that they use. Be aware of it. Be tuned to it, and don't let it demoralise you. All right, Assalamu alaikum. Thanks. Hope it helped.